according to Comcast.
And I'll do the same. Planning board meeting. Call to order. It's 30.
And just to let everybody know, you got something else, Jim?
Yeah, I just want to take a roll call.
Okay, go
For the
ahead.
record. Bob Sheehan,
Present.
Lillian,
Here.
Rob Chauvin, Jason Smeagol.
Here.
Jim Tromke here. Okay. 4 of us are here as to date, or for now anyway.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
And
Jay.
we got 3 of us here from Economic Development, being Bill Porter, Brian Hoffchild, and myself. Right, guys? You're there, right, Bill?
I'm gonna get there.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because I see yours and Brian's name up there.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. I just can't see anybody. I don't know what's going on, but that's my problem. We can start.
We're getting an echo here too. And I got my camera turned on and I don't see myself either.
We had some technical difficulties last night when we started off as well, so
Okay.
maybe they'll clear.
I had technical difficulties all day today. My computer went down. Just for anybody's information while we're waiting to get started, anybody that has Comcast internet that uses the free Norton antivirus from Comcast, it expires on 31 December of this year. And if you want to get something else, you have to do it before then. But be very cautious when you put it on because it crashed my computer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that advice.
There are certain steps that have to be taken. I took them on 2 different laptops. One worked and one didn't. The biggest thing is you got to make sure you have to completely uninstall the old Nortons. If you want to, for real quick reference, if you don't have an account with Norton.com, create it before you even purchase the software. That way, when you purchase it and from Norton's, you can go right into your account. And then the first thing, go to support and say, remove any Norton software. Then you're going to have to reboot and start again. I had to do it 3 times on one computer and twice on another. And the one with the 3 times still hasn't come up yet. Okay. The majority of this meeting in the beginning is the Economic Development Committee meeting. It's not going to be voting on anything tonight. So the planning board will do the voting. The grant that we have here, which Ken is here for, has to be completed by 31 December of this year. Right, Ken?
That's correct.
Okay. So the Economic Development Committee here is to support the planning board because we came up with this grant money and passed it on to you guys so you wouldn't have to use your own. Just as we did with the stormwater permitting, so you don't have to use your own. We got a grant for you for that one too. So who wants to take the lead since we're going to have the planning board and Ken Comey basically doing it, and the Economic Development Committee is here to support you guys. And then after you guys finalize the grant, if you choose to want to leave from the planning board, you're welcome to. The Economic Development will continue then. How's that?
Sounds good, Jay.
Okay.
Oh, so I guess, Ken, what we'd like for you to do is the information came out a few days ago. I think I don't know if we've all had a chance to absorb it all, but
Sure.
I know I've looked at some of it. I haven't had a chance to get through all of it. But if you could give us a abbreviated overview, and then the board can discuss it, and if deemed, we can vote on it tonight.
Yes.
So why don't go ahead, Ken, and give us the overview, please.
Sure. Well, thank you, Jim. So as Jay and Jim have made the various boards aware, this project is to satisfy the DLTA request. That's District Local Technical Assistance request that was made by the town administrator with regards to understanding mixed-use development in Granby. Particularly by evaluating the regulations, and that's normally something that I would do at PVPC as the senior land use planner working on municipal planning with municipal planning boards and as the zoning specialist. And then also identifying opportunities and resources for the town to take advantage of with regards to any state grant opportunities or funding sources that could help try to realize this mixed use development in town. You know, as I think the majority of the members on this call are from the planning board, and I know Jay and Bill have served on the planning board to some capacity in the past. The planning board is probably the more visible board to take to look at how to continue talking about mixed use development, especially with regards to regulations. So the report is laid out as far as providing a context snapshot of development in the town for mixed use development, as well as how it's established in the master plan, because that's important. You know, when you go to granting and funding sources, you want to be able to draw upon the goals and recommendations that the master plan identifies to help you get that money to support some of the policy that you are trying to, that you've identified for the town. Also some zoning analysis based on the master plan, based on some of the zoning bylaw that exists for mixed uses, and then talking about infrastructure and the limited capacity and capability of the particular areas of town where mixed use has been designated, and then talking about recommendations. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, some of it is regulatory, and then some of it is using the momentum of this committee to identify the resources and then identify capacity to possibly look at. And when I say capacity, it's identifying other boards and committees and or the town administrator or other town staff to assist with applying for the grants. You know, in my few meetings, in the meetings with the planning board, talking about zoning bylaw amendments that they're exploring, as well as this committee, I've learned a bit about some of the history regarding mixed use in Granby. And I think with that said, you know, I think it was established that there is a mixed use development that is in the mixed use district. However, it wasn't built in the time that the mixed use development overlay district was established. So the mixed use development overlay zoning district was established in 2014, and there have been no mixed use developments built or permitted under that zoning bylaw. The one mixed use development is the ground floor insurance agency the two residential apartments above it on Amherst Street. And I believe my records say 2007 that was constructed. But so one of the things that this report tries to do is to guide the understanding of the people that would read it. So presumably it would be the planning board and the entities that are looking at these particular areas of possible development. As the town has gone through a master planning process to identify these areas to establish mixed uses and created regulations that suggest that that's what they want there. And knowing that there is a mixed bag of results with regards to some of the infrastructure that would help support that. I know that in the snapshot, you know, and in these past few months, I learned through Jay and some of the work that he's doing with the select board and in the campaigning for the infrastructure connection to South Hadley's infrastructure lines. There is that momentum, and hopefully the town can use this as momentum to identify funding sources or identifying some way to move forward with some of the infrastructure improvements that will need to occur to maybe establish even more mixed use, or at least get a major developer on board to find what's the word? Find a way to invest in Granby. With that said, you know, this is in the report, but generally mixed use developments are the diversity of uses. And I think, as I mentioned with the property on Amherst Street, it has a residential component normally, as well as some sort of ground level. And the town administrator was specifically interested in that particular product for the areas that have been established for this district. However, you know, I think as you traverse many communities and maybe as people that work in economic development and planning board members that really care about how development looks and how development works, have identified products or different types of mixed use developments elsewhere. And I think it's important to look at that and realize that really mixed use is there to ensure the possibility that there is not only one type of, you know, use. For lack of better terms, that's really the reality of it. It also is probably typically more dense and intense type development where you know, there's this physical design component, and the board, when they established the overlay, looked at that, as well as some characteristics of how that development should look. So there's some sort of design quality and compliance that would need to happen with design guidelines, depending on the part of town. And then also being able to integrate other town amenities. That's important. That's an important goal of mixed use too. You know, if there are open spaces that could be used or connected to, that would be a great opportunity for the community to realize that. One thing that comes up with mixed use development is the residential component. So in your bylaw, you allow for even a bonus of additional dwelling units if there is at least 10% of those dwelling units developed as affordable per, you know, state guidelines. That's your inclusionary zoning bylaw, or your version of the inclusionary zoning, where you put aside a certain amount of residential development for affordability. So the thing is that the public opinion suggests that this is a type of development that the community likes. And, you know, back in 2017, when you went through the master plan process or you updated the land use section, this was identified, you know, as something that the town should be working towards. And that's listed in this report. In the master plan, you know, you've identified in the land use element that there is a need or a want to expand the town's commercial tax base, and normally that's a goal for many communities, and yours is no different. And then also making sure you're making the correct investments for infrastructure improvements with the zoning that you create. And you know, I think it was identified back then that with these areas that are probably more dense and could have more and could support more commercial development types, this is where you would want to direct your infrastructure funds if they're available. And you did so with your establishment of the zoning bylaw. So with regards to some of the analysis of the zoning, specifically requirements for approval. So a lot of times when these types of studies are done, it is to identify areas of the zoning bylaw which could possibly hamper or suggest that it may be some sort of hindrance to that type of development. And I suggested this at the last meeting of this committee. And maybe in passing with some of the planning board at one of the planning board meetings with regards to how the mixed use zoning bylaw could possibly incorporate some, or not incorporate, but ease some of the restrictions with regards to the accommodations of mixed use buildings with neighborhoods serving retail services and other uses on ground floor and residential units above. So even though the town administrator had suggested to look at ways to try to do that, I would suggest that the board maybe look at ways to identify horizontal mixed use developments. So not things that are built, you know, vertically, obviously, but more so at parcel level and identifying ways to develop that parcel smartly, and incorporating design and and any infrastructure needs that would need to be placed on that parcel. As we had a discussion with the planning board last night at its public hearing, parking is always a point of discussion with regards to site plan approvals in general. And, you know, there is a movement, not necessarily in Granby, but across the country with regards to parking minimums and, you know, site plans that need to show minimum parking requirements for each different type of use. And so I think that, as I suggest in the report, there's some inconsistency with the requirement of a mixed use development proposal versus what the developer could develop under a general business zoning district. And it seems as if that there could be less onerous requirements for those types of uses. You know, for example, in the zoning bylaw for in your overlay district, requiring, there's inconsistency in saying that the project shall also meet the requirements in your section 5.6, which is your off-street parking section. But at the same time, below that, it also suggests that these are new allocations or allotments for these types of uses in the mixed use zone. So the minimum number of parking spaces required for office uses is 1 space per 200 square feet of floor space. Public assembly uses 1 space per every 15 seats. So, I think there are probably best practices with regards to these types of developments that can be explored further. But I think, as far as any regulatory suggestions and as far as amendments, I think the planning board can possibly explore some changes to the parking requirements. Not only the zone, and I think, it might be worthwhile to discuss parking in general in Granby for site plan approvals for non-residential development. And this usually comes up when you're talking about one aspect of development, which in this case is mixed use. It kind of leads to a snowball effect where you then start talking about parking altogether throughout town, especially if there were some challenges in identifying the need for that much parking based on a specific use that's coming to town. So with regards to the zoning for mixed use development, I think that maybe taking a look at the parking requirements is something that could help the town. Obviously, there are some other issues with regards to mixed use development coming to town in general. But I think if the town has identified or can identify someone that would like to make an investment in town by developing this type of, these types of uses, that could be an opportunity based in the zoning to allow them to move through an efficient pace to get that development permitted. This is a comment that I usually share with other boards too, and it's specific to the waiver clause, being able to ensure consistency in how that's applied. There's a suggestion here with that if there is, if the planning board so does deem a certain type of development not needing to have, certain aspects of, or not needing to meet certain standards with regards to its development, they can waive it. I think it might just be a comment. And I know that when, I discuss things with the boards, that sometimes comes up. And then there's an option for housing. This is to possibly address other issues that may come up in town is housing. It's not something that is particular here, but knowing that this inclusionary zoning, which is putting aside housing development at a certain percentage for affordability under the state guidelines, if that can be applied elsewhere to housing development, that's something that many communities are trying to adopt and or not trying to adopt, but explore. I don't like to use the word trying to adopt, because that if the community has identified that that's not something that it really wants to do, there's no reason to force it. However, there are opportunities for grants and funding mechanisms if ideas like this are moved upon. There was some discussion at one of the previous meetings with the committee for a parcel, and I identify this, and I'm realizing that the pages are misnumbered. But it shows a big parcel that is in the Five Corners area that, according to the zoning map, has both the mixed use overlay district and the agricultural protection zone district, overlay district atop those. And I think after speaking to Bill Porter, it probably is identified that that is Chapter 61A land. And that's important to note. However, I think it's also worthwhile to explore because it happens to be in mixed use, in the mixed use district, you can possibly take a look at that particular parcel and see what type of environmental constraints are on it. Maybe if it is removed from 61A land. However, 61A is, it's established, and there's a particular process that town would need to be ready with if that was something that they could possibly look at for future development. So understanding some of the zoning ramifications of that particular parcel, especially as it's been identified as a mixed use in the mixed use district. So in the infrastructure section, this is something that has been ingrained in my head with, the smaller communities and understanding the ability of infrastructure to be constructed in town. And, in talking to the Economic Development and Growth Committee, it is clear that infrastructure is something that prohibits a lot of, the lack of infrastructure prohibits a lot of development, certain types of development coming to town. And so, my comment is that utilizing the momentum of the ability with the opportunities with South Hadley, I think that there are some bright spots in trying to take that and move forward with that. So the other component of this report were recommendations, and specifically, there were the zoning bylaw amendments, the suggested at least exploration of amending the zoning particular to the types of uses in the mixed use zone development overlay, as well as taking another look at parking and using best practices for those parking allowances. Parking is always, very community specific, and depending on, some of those requirements, it also happens to be one of the biggest points of contention for site plan approval of non-residential development. So it is the zoning bylaw recommendations, as well as the ability to tap into the state programs. And at the end of the day, we discussed these grants, and these opportunities have been available to Granby. Understanding the capacity issues of trying to administer the grants and apply for grants, that's probably the biggest hurdle for the community. But the MassWorks grants, which allows for infrastructure programs to be established for the town. The Mass Development grants, which help with TIFs and DIFs. So DIFs are district improvement financing, and TIFs are tax increment financing. And I understand that the Board of Assessors prior to the pandemic were exploring this. So I would probably urge the Board of Assessors to reassess and figure out how to maybe take advantage of that if they have a developer in mind, or a developer had come to the community to maybe look into that. The town is definitely open for business, and it's very clear based on my interactions with the planning board and how things are permitted, and the thoughtfulness of the board members. But it takes momentum, and it takes the energy of all town volunteers to move on these recommendations and to identify ways to continue trying to find the ability to develop in town. And this is not, obviously this is mixed use development. I know that there is challenges of just even commercial development. And I know the planning board, as I continue to work with them, are exploring zoning map amendments elsewhere in town, which can help with the tax base. So not only mixed use development, but all non-residential development in general. So that's pretty much my reporting for this particular project. You know, I have realized that the various boards that I get to interact with in Granby, and I will continue to interact with in Granby, really care about many aspects of town life, and expanding the tax base is important for all communities, and understanding how to do that, and identifying the resources is probably the most important part, because, and then also having the ability and capacity to apply and administer those grants. But I guess, you know, we can take the next 30 minutes or so to discuss the project, as well as, you know, discuss any possible recommendations that can make its way into this report, or any improvements that can be made to this report. I do suggest that if there are grammar or formatting things that can be shared, that you just send me an email with those changes, so we don't necessarily need to take the time to discuss those tonight. But yeah, I guess it's open to discussion at this point.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Paid all your effort, and as you know, we're kind of under a moratorium in a way that there's not much we can do with changing the bylaws at this point until there's a scheduled town meeting. And I've been told we'd be kept in the loop. So with that being said, I think once we get the green light and we're told that there's going to be a town meeting, then we can work back from there and visit some of the changes you recommended for our zoning, hold our hearings, you know, so on and so forth, for the parking. I'm in agreement with that. I don't know how the rest of the board members feel, but like, you know, with many of the other changes that we'd like to propose to the town, with zoning, as far as rezoning some areas that we've discussed, and some of the ones that you're proposing under the mixed use group. We'd like to get those underway as soon as we can, as soon as the town tells us that they're going to move forward with a public or a town meeting, general town meeting. So other than that, what would you expect the board to do tonight? Jay mentioned, you know, for the planning board to take a vote. I'm not sure what we can vote on. We can vote on, yes, we agree with some of the suggestions you've made, that we should explore it a little bit more, and then eventually present it to town.
Well, the town will be, on select board, will be looking for the planning board to approve his report for the grant. If you guys are happy with his report, you just make a vote on that, and then when it comes before the town select board, we can approve the report and the grant is over. Right, Ken?
I mean, the grant is over in that I won't have the capacity to make, you know, any significant changes after that. The grant funding was literally to do this report.
Right.
So the town has accepted the grant by, you know, allowing me to work on this with you all. As I mentioned to the planning board yesterday at their meeting, you know, this is a study, it's a report, it's not a required, document that a planning board or any other committee would necessarily approve. If the town has specific ways of approving the work of your consultants, I guess, in that respect, the board can take a vote to accept maybe the findings or accept that, they'll take into consideration some of these ideas and explore bylaw amendments. It also, the other thing is, I may be receiving additional, just small formatting and spelling and any of those types of, because it's a report, does that deem this final? It's one of those things where, the town can take an action, but my work with this particular project will be done at the end of the year. And obviously the continued conversations will be happening with the planning board because I participate, and they work with me under planning board assistance. So these continued conversations are going to happen no matter what. I guess it's my hope that some of the other aspects, as your committee, the Economic Development and Growth Committee, continue to talk about ways to build economic development in town, is that maybe some of those other ideas that are not necessarily under the purview of the planning board can either be explored or identify the proper groups and authorities to move forward with those. But if the planning board wants to make a motion to suggest approving the plan, I think by all means that the town can make that.
The only thing.
Bob, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Bobby.
What my simple suggestion is that the planning board vote to accept Ken's report as written as a template for progress here within the town. And hopefully that will satisfy any, it's sounding like you may or you may not need to close the door on this by December 30th to satisfy the grant and whatever is written behind the grant. But that way you have an endorsement from the planning board. Is that kind of a correct assumption?
I think you're correct, Bobby, in as much as Chris Martin will not close any grant unless he gets something from somebody in writing, whether it's the Energy Committee, the Select Board, or anything like that. So this really comes from him. It doesn't come from anybody else. But you can ask, Lil's on here from the Energy Committee with me, and there's other committees out there that get funds. And Brian Hofschild was a Select Board member for 21 years. So I think but Chris generally wants something in writing before he closes any grant out. Would you agree with that, Brian? You're on mute, Brian, if you're talking.
Hi, guys. Sorry,
Hey, Brian.
I was eating my, how you doing? I just got home a little while ago. I was eating my dinner, so. Poor Kenny had to sit here and watch me eat chips. I was gonna offer him one. Yeah, I understand what Chris is saying. He it's his neck on the line with anything unless somebody closes it out. He'll keep it open until somebody closes it. So if you want to take a vote, you have a majority right now on your side, Bobby and Jim?
Yes, we have 4 of the 5 members.
Okay.
Unless Rob is signed in from the previous roll call.
I take a vote. It's not gonna hurt. Take a vote.
I'll
Bob,
Bob,
this
go
is,
ahead and make the motion that you were going to make. That's an acceptance of it.
this is
Okay.
Lil. I have a question.
Yes, Will.
On page 4 of Ken's report, the last 2 paragraphs on the bottom, start a sentence and just leave it. There are incomplete sentences there. Like the first one says, however, less than a third, and there's nothing after that. The next paragraph says, the bylaws identify nothing after that. I wouldn't vote to accept that because we don't have the whole report there.
But we can accept this as a working template,
That's
I
what
would
Bob was
think.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, there is time before the end of the month to, and I guess if the planning board would be making that motion, they can make that motion at a future planning board hearing too. As I mentioned, this is, a document that is gonna continue to live on and be a resource that may be updated in the next couple of years. Or maybe if the town identifies ways to update the master plan. But yes, Lil, yeah, obviously those are incomplete sentences and I have to figure out what document I was working off of to make those complete sentences and provide that analysis.
I don't think Chris Martin would mind at all if this was voted on at your regular planning board meeting versus this joint meeting. But as like Brian says, Chris is not going to close anything out till somebody gives him something in writing. That's just the way he is.
Well, we also have a planning board meeting next Tuesday.
Hey,
I'll talk with Chris to see what he's looking for.
that's fine.
Hey, Lil,
Yes.
what your problem is? You're too good. Too good at what you do,
But
Lil.
But if we can step back to the way I was going to make the motion as a template, to me, template means that it can grow, it can expand, there can be corrections, that kind of stuff. It's not a dyed-in-the-wool, hard-nosed document. And we could put this to bed this evening and not have to worry about our meeting a week from tonight and taking care of that.
But is that
Bobby.
gonna be what Chris is looking for?
It's an acceptance. It's an acceptance by us. I personally, what Chris is looking for and what we're looking for could potentially be two different things. We're looking to wrap this thing up by the end of the year, and as Ken had freely said earlier, if there's any corrections you'd like to see, spelling errors, grammatical errors, feel free to email him, but let's not take up time this evening.
I mean, I personally, from the grants that I've worked with, Chris, we have not signed off on some of them to after the expiration date because we had some issue with them until they were completed. And then we signed off and gave them to Chris. And once we signed off on him, he was happy. I don't think he really cares when. But
Bobby, the only reason I mentioned the vote tonight, I didn't think you guys would be meeting until after the first of the year. So if you're meeting next Tuesday or Wednesday night, it's not necessary to do this tonight as long as you get it done then. So
Well, that is the board's intention. However, and I hate to be the devil's advocate, we could end up with a snowstorm on Tuesday, the day of the next scheduled meeting, that town offices are closed, and then we can't meet again until the beginning of January sometime. I would just as soon get this taken care of now.
Bobby, I never knew you to be the devil's advocate.
Oh, sure you have. Oh no, you used to call me the devil. That's what it was.
That's it. Quit right there, buddy.
Okay.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the DLTA report written by Ken as a working template for the planning for the town of Granby to expand on and use as guidance in future endeavors regarding bylaws, housing, or future endeavors. That's it.
Okay, do I have a second?
Jason Smeagol here. I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor? Bob Sheehan,
Aye.
Lillian, Camus,
Aye.
Jason Smeagol,
Aye.
Jim Tromke is an aye. Motion carries.
And
Very
Jim-
good.
Jim, I would
Ken, whoops, Jay, just real quick, if I may. Ken, thank you for all your hard work. I, as a board member, appreciate it. I'm sorry, Jay, go ahead.
No,
I'll
no problem,
second that.
Bobby. I was just gonna suggest to Jim to send Chris Mine an email telling him that you did have a motion and a vote and it was approved, because otherwise he won't see it until your meeting minutes, which could be, 2-3 weeks from now when you approve them, that's all.
Or about an hour and a half from now.
Not approve your meeting minutes? I don't think so. I know she gets them out quick, but you're not gonna have a meeting. But that's up to you guys to do. Because we've done that before in the Energy Committee. Instead of having a hurry-up meeting just to approve the closure of a grant, we sent him an email and we sent him a copy of our draft meeting minutes, and we said we'd vote on it at the next meeting. He was acceptable to that.
Ken, I want to echo what Bob had to say. I appreciate all your efforts in putting this together and identifying some gaps in our bylaws that we can potentially fix down the road. So, good job. Thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, Bob Sheehan will make a motion to adjourn the planning board meeting. And also, thank you to everybody that has worked so diligently on this endeavor. Thank you.
Okay, do I have a second for adjournment?
Jason Smeagol. I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. All those in favor? Bob Sheehan,
Aye.
Lillian Camus,
Aye.
Jason Smeagol,
Aye.
Jim Tromke is an aye. Meeting's adjourned. I want to thank everybody. Stay online for the economic development portion of it. Those that are, I hope you all have a nice Christmas. Be safe, and we'll see you next week, or talk to you next week anyway.
Yeah, Bob and Jason, have a good one. Stay safe.
You too,
Thank
folks,
you, guys.
and Merry Christmas to all. Thank you. Good night.
Okay, Jay, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome to stay with us, Ken, if you want. Anybody can stay with us. It's a public meeting, so it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
stick around.
Okay, the first thing we have is land acquisitions. At the last select board meeting, which was, I believe, 14 December, the select board voted to move 4 West State Street and the Sand Pines State Park into the hands of the Land Use Committee. You probably won't see it in writing until those meeting minutes are approved, but if you watch it on GCAM, you will see that it's approved. So that's basically for Brian and Jim, because you're on both.
Okay, Brian, don't forget to make sure. I know we've had some errors and some problems in the past about that, but make sure you get a confirmation from it, if you don't mind.
Nope, I'll look for it.
Okay, as far as 4 West State Street, the only thing I'll say with that is for the Land Use Committee and Economic Development Committee, hopefully that goes through. I don't know what the status is, but with Irene Rapper and her playground and stuff, but I will tell you that the select board has signed a letter to all our state politicians saying that we are a go for the water pipeline and we are a go with South Hadley. The only thing we need right now on that project is for the Mass DOT to reinstate the in-kind funds. On the 2020 project, we had $360,000 of in-kind funds, but on the 2021 project, kind of on a hold if you talk to one person, but maybe Ken can clarify this from the transportation at PVPC. It's still planned to go off in the spring of 2021. But we don't have anything in writing that we got in-kind funds yet.
I'll send an email to the transportation folks.
Okay, because all we want is our in-kind funds, so when the bidding goes in, we have 1.2 million, and they would, in-kind funds would give us an additional 360,000. So that brings up our total for usage on the bid is 1.5 million and 60,000. And that could make a big difference. Just quickly on that, as Jim touched upon, we may have a special town meeting because the budget of the state is coming close to being finalized. And once the state's budget is finalized, then the town will finalize its budget and we'll have a special town meeting. I'm thinking we're gonna have one in January or February myself. Do you guys think we should add a couple $100,000 on an article to boost it from 1.2 up because of all the prices going up on everything else?
I couldn't that. I would like to touch on something else that was brought to my attention the other day by Bob Sheehan.
Oh, that's fine.
It's in regards to what you're discussing. So anyway,
Okay.
a few years ago, the town did a study. This was for sewer, and they applied and received and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody knows more about this than what I'm saying.
Is this the
They received-
three-vote short one?
They received the grant for USDA
Yes.
and it was approved and was accepted and approved. And I believe they chose not to bring it up to a town vote because they thought it might be in conflict with the school. That was a grant that was that was basically free money at the interest rate that, for a 40-year bond, not a grant, it was a bond. So would the select board consider putting a committee together to explore that again and see if we can't get a grant to fund the full boat all the way down 202?
Hey, about Jimmy, all I'll tell you, and I think if you watch the select board meetings, almost every meeting I'm pushing for a grant writer, a planner, a conservation person. There is not enough staff in our current select board office to handle all the requirements going through there. Never mind pre-COVID, but post-COVID, there's a lot of stuff falling through the cracks.
Yep. So I get that. And
But they won't move it.
We didn't have a grant writer the last time we were approved for the I think it was a bond, it wasn't a grant. But nonetheless, they appropriated, well, after the fact, they appropriated it after they spent it, $70,000 to hire a consultant to go do it for us. Rather than to hire a full-time writer, why not just subcontract it out to a resource that can do it for us?
I think Brian will tell you, if you want to do something like that, you need an article voted on a special town meeting for the people to vote on for the money, right, Brian?
You do. And you have to.
Well, they didn't do it the last time.
Jimmy, I don't remember what they did the last time, to be honest with you. I don't, it was after my watch, I believe.
Well, I can tell you the story I was told, Brian. The story I was told, they did all the paperwork, they got everything approved, but they hadn't gone before the people yet. So they went before the people and say, look, we got all this money, we're all set to go. And they were 3 votes short of getting it approved. Because a lot of people on New Ludlow Road were afraid that
No.
the.
That was different project, Jay.
Okay,
Yep, different project.
okay. Because I know that was about sewers over on New Ludlow Road.
Right.
This was the 202 corridor.
I mean, I have no problem because I think we need people. I don't care if they're subcontracted like Ken or they're actual employees. But there's a lot of stuff, like you saw my email concerning the community compact. Okay? Town hasn't updated the community compact since 2015. This Economic Development Committee sent a memo to the select board this past summer saying we wanted the community compact updated for economic development and information technology infrastructure. You guys remember that? Yep, and,
I do.
yep, and the select board hasn't done anything with it, and I'm only 1 vote. So whatever I say lately, I don't even get seconded, so they don't have to vote on it.
I'm just saying, we don't necessarily have to hire people to do this work as a town employee, especially when it's specialized. Hire a consultant that specializes in this particular field, and then have them go after the grant money or the bonds that are available to the town.
And then what you do is you take their fee and you tack it on to the bond.
Yeah.
So-
I just think it's going to be a damn shame. They go up the 202 corridor, put the cul-de-sac, not the cul-de-sacs, the roundabouts in. They put the sidewalks in. They build all that, and we don't put infrastructure.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%.
I mean, the work that Ken did, I commend him for it. He did a good job, but none of that will come until you put infrastructure on. At least the bulk of it won't come. The good stuff won't come. I say this over and over again at almost every meeting. We've got McDuffie School they're our largest taxpayer in the town. And we should be trying not just to accommodate them so that they can prosper and grow, but everybody else along the 202 corridor. That the commons area is in dire need of utilities.
I agree. But I'm only 1 vote. And I can't hardly get past what we're getting past now.
All right, well, I just thought I'd bring it up.
Well, you're more than welcome to, and I'd like to see it in the meeting minutes. I know Lil will put it in, and we can put it into the select board again and say, that letter to the Economic Development Committee, said they're still in favor of improving the town's infrastructure. Look at the latest announcement from Mass Works and the Community Compact. 55 communities got money. You know how many communities applied? 57. 55 out of 57 got money, and the 2 that didn't get the money didn't get the paperwork in time, I was told. So anybody who applied got money.
Maybe the select board should ask to have a fund put aside at the next town meeting that they can use at their discretion to apply, to hire a contractor, a consultant to apply for these.
I have no problem doing it anyway, as long as it gets done. But so far, nobody wants to, like Brian says, you need an article to people vote on for the money. I have no problem with that. But again, to put in an article, the select board's got to have 2 votes, and the way it works is you got to get it by the town administrator first.
It seems to me, Jay, that this would be something that Chris would be in favor of because it would take the pressure off of his back. It would give somebody something else or somebody else a job to do and not him. As you said before, he's got so many jobs to do at this point in time that this would be a big task for him, not a little one, but a big task. So by going to the outside and hiring somebody like Jimmy suggested, I think that would be a plus for him. And he was
Yeah,
more than,
we don't worry about, you know, hiring someone full-time and paying their benefits and once they're done with this project, then what do we do with them?
I agree, Jim.
I have no,
Go with the outside world. You know,
I have no
outsource.
problem either way, but Chris doesn't want to seem to give up any of his,
Well,
He wouldn't be giving up authority because they'd be reporting to him. They'd be,
absolutely.
yeah, but then he'd have to give up information about stuff to do stuff, and he doesn't want to do that.
Well,
I'm gonna be talking to him tomorrow anyway. I gotta call him about the other thing, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. I don't care how it gets funded, as long as it gets funded, because as we talked about grants before, Boston keeps a list on who gets what grant. The town of Granby has never gotten a Mass Works or a STRAP grant. And you know what the STRAP grant is, right? The small town one. If Granby put in for them with a feasible project, Granby goes to the top of the list because they've never got one. So all these grants are competitive, but if you've never had one, you get extra points for the competitiveness. It's all politics. And that's the way Eric Lesser explained it to me. But he also explained it. If you're unemployed and you don't put in the paperwork for the unemployment, you don't get the money. Just the same thing with the grants. If you don't apply for the grants, you don't get them.
now, Jay, you mentioned a minute ago.
Yep.
That I'm assuming Lil's still out there.
Yes.
Why don't we just put it into the minutes? And
Yeah.
be, you know, let the board of selectmen or the select board, I'm sorry, have an understanding where we are at this point in time.
I have no problem doing that. Like I say, we sent a memo to them this past summer to update that. And then when I saw that come out, I was a little bit frustrated. You could tell that by the way I sent the email out.
Mhm.
I mean, there's money out there, but you have to put in for it to get it.
I'll make sure it's in the minutes.
Okay.
Thanks, Lil.
Okay, the only other thing under land acquisition, and this is basically towards Brian and Jim, because they're on the land use committee. We're having a meeting at 3:15 tomorrow concerning the school. We've got solar block. I don't know if you're up on this. I know Lil is. Granby and Solar Block are a finalist for a grant for a Department of Energy grant. What we're talking about, and I can send some stuff out later when I get my computer running, or Lil can send it out. I think you have it. Don't you have it, Lil? The pictures and the links to what Solar Block looks like?
I believe I do.
Yep. At 3:15 tomorrow, there's a meeting with the school committee that they're basically gonna give their blessings, just like the planning board gave their blessings tonight but the school will be doing the blessings on the solar block project because they have to have a letter of intent into the Department of Energy by no later than 4 January.
Is this a go to meeting?
I think it's gonna be a Zoom meeting because the school's running it tomorrow.
Is there some way somebody can send me something? Because at 3:15, I'll be sitting in my office.
Yeah, as soon as I get something in, hey, Lil, did you get anything see anything on it yet? From the school?
No,
Okay. Again, I've got to get into my email because I know it's been posted according to Kathy Leonard. Because she talked to me on the phone today, but I said, I'm sorry, I got no email. I can't forward you anything. But yes, I'm writing down right now, Brian, as soon as I get notified of the stuff to connect to it, I will just forward a copy of it to you. Anybody else want it?
Yes, Jay, I'd like a copy, please.
Okay, Bill Porter. Anybody else?
I would, Jay, but I'm another meeting at that same time, so I can't.
Yeah, but it's okay, Jim, because it's gonna be taped by GCAM, so you can always watch it later if you want. You just wouldn't be able to, participate, shall we say.
Right.
Okay, Bill and, Brian, I got you covered for the school tomorrow. What I'm getting at is, they haven't calculated to the finite degree. Solar block is vertical solar, okay? The Granby Junior Senior High School roof is not structurally sound enough to have solar up there. And they don't want to build solar fields in the fields behind the school. So to put insulation in the school, because the walls of the school are only 1 3/4 inches thick and with no insulation. And I don't want to get too far off track, but this is going to be putting an exterior wall on the current exterior wall with insulation between it. And the exterior wall they put on will produce solar. One of the things that the Energy Committee thought of is that Sand Pines Park. It almost abuts the town property. Alan Katowitz and one other person are the only two properties between the town property and the Sandy Pines. So when you guys look at it, look for anything you want to make revenue, anything you want. But one of the things we could use, if we put solar out there, we could pump it into the school campus in conjunction with the solar block and keep it behind the meter. Because, well, maybe I should ask, everybody know what behind the meter is?
Yep, I do.
Okay, so you don't have to pay any distribution charges for electricity at all. And the electricity itself is cheap. It's just getting there, it's expensive. And if we can have a farm out of the Sandy Pines area and send the electricity behind the meter over to the school campus, that would save us a hell of a lot of money.
Can you do it with the change bylaws, Jay?
Yes. Yes, there's got more than enough
Oh.
property there with the current bylaws to do it.
With all the setbacks that are required now?
Yep, not a problem. Not a problem at all.
Then we'd have to do a clear cut.
I think if you just get 2 easements, to get, the biggest thing is Alan Katowitz and the other, last name begins with an M and I forget what it was. I had looked it up. And I can't display anything here anyways. But I did talk to the Board of Assessors. I talked to Nicole, Bill, and there's only 2 properties that between Sandy Pines and the town property, and one of them is Alan Kay's. And I'm pretty sure Alan Kay would give us an easement without blinking an eye. And it's just only a matter of one other property just to send the power over to the school campus. Behind the meter, so we pay 0 distribution charge, and that and solar block would greatly reduce the expenses of that building. So just consider it when you're doing it. I might as well.
Which
Go ahead.
building are you referring to?
You could do either the junior senior high school and or East Meadow. It doesn't make a difference. You can string them together. The junior senior high school uses more electricity than East Meadow. I can tell you that.
Jay,
I think-
would this save the town money or the school department money?
This is gonna save the town money. Because the school only gets what the town gives them. And once the bills of the school department go down, that revenue goes to the taxpayers, not to them.
Yeah, the school's not paying electricity, are they? Isn't that an in-kind?
Yes,
Yes, it's in-kind in the town government, so the town's actually, the general government's actually paying that. And we deduct it from them as in-kind.
So,
Just like
so
a-
Jay, so
Yep.
behind the meter,
yes,
the town builds the solar field,
yep.
manages it.
You can manage it, or you could lease out the field. That would be up to the town.
So who would you lease it to, and what would they make out off of it if it was behind the meter. They'd have to sell electricity to make their money.
We could pop, with the amount of electricity that school campus uses, I don't think we could build enough, even if we took all of East Street and put it in there, it wouldn't be enough for those buildings. They use that much electricity.
So I guess now I'm guessing, what's your point then? If we can't build enough to
We can lower the cost. Whatever we build is gonna reduce the cost. I mean, you're gonna be connected to the grid no matter what. Because what happens if we have a brownout period or something like that, that it's cloudy? You're gonna have to buy some from the grid, but the purpose is buy the least possible from the grid.
Well, before we purchase anything, wouldn't we do a cost benefit analysis?
Of course.
Find out. What's that?
I said, of course. But let me put it to you this way. The Energy Committee, we had a meeting on was it the 17th of December, Lil? I think it was.
Yes.
You guys know that I am not planning on coming back to any of the committees or the select board when my term is up. Well, the other members of the Energy Committee let me know that they're not planning on coming back either. So unless the select board comes up with new members, there will be no Energy Committee. So any of this stuff that we can give to the appropriate people to make it better for the town residents, we feel is a good idea. Another example is the Granby Electric Department. The way the Massachusetts General Law reads, if electricity is being produced within your municipality, you have a right to regulate it, just like how South Hadley does it and everybody else. They just do it through water. But if you look at the town of Ashland, and I know Bill Porter has checked it out because we talked about it, they saved their people $785,000 the first year on electric rates. Because now you can negotiate directly with the people producing the electricity. You don't have to go to the grid and all that. You can negotiate to them. And you just use a pilot agreement. That's all you do. And I'll tell you what, as a town taxpayer, I don't care if you reduce my taxes, you reduce my electric rate, or you reduce anything. As long as you put more money in my pocket, I'm happy. I don't care how you do it. Can't hear you, Brian.
I was gonna say, Jay, what are the steps that you have to take to set up a municipal electric board?
They're very minimal. What I would do if we want to go that route, I was going to contact the town of Ashland and instead of reinventing the wheel, get the guidelines from them how they did it. That was my thought process.
Okay. Would that not be the first thing you would do?
Yes.
Okay.
But the thing of it is, the first thing, if you're gonna do something like that, you have to have a source.
Yes.
Okay, Sandy Pines could be a source for us. If it turns out it's a source and is approved by the Land Use Committee and Select Board, then I would go to the town of Ashland and say, hey, can you give us a hand? We're gonna do this and create power within our community, and we want to use it within our community.
Hey, Jay, as long as you're talking about the land use committee,
Yeah.
I think Jim may have the same question I have. What exactly do you have? What exactly does the town administrator or the select board have that they're going to be sending along to us? Is there going to be enough information to justify or make a just decision?
Well, they asked me that question, and I says, the Energy Committee and myself have sent the Economic Development Committee all the information we have on Sandy Pines to show that it's clean from DEP.
Yep.
And we've also sent everything that we have to the Economic Development about what's her first name? The late Mrs. Rapper there. I forget her first name right now. But she owns those 5 acres on 202 at 4 West State Street that are open on 19 plus acres behind. The only thing she's asking is some kind of little playground for kids, and she donated to the town.
Mhm.
But again, we don't know how much of that land is usable. I mean, maybe it's only enough to get a goat path through. Maybe it's enough to get a road in. The second question comes in, how much of the 19 acres owned by the town is actually usable? What could it be used for?
Well, yeah, maybe before it comes to that piece of property comes before the land use committee. Maybe it'd be a good idea to have the Conservation Commission sign
I
off.
agree. I agree, but so now you guys have the authority to go to the Conservation Committee and ask them to do something for you because the select board has already tasked you to do it.
Okay,
Because remember the comments we've had in earlier discussions that I think Jim is the one that brought it up. The committee shouldn't be doing anything unless they're tasked by the select board.
correct.
So I made the motions at the last meeting to turn all those things over to the land use committee for evaluation. And it got it unanimously approved.
Okay,
See, they do listen to you once in a while, Jay.
yeah. Yeah, see, Jimmy and I felt that we were handicapped because we didn't have everything, we didn't.
No.
When
No.
you're handicapped, and you don't feel like you have the whole ball of wax in front of you, and
Well, the only ball of wax we have is Irene Rapper's name and phone number and what she wants for the 5 acres.
okay,
But we don't know if she wants a Six Flags or just a merry-go-round, you know what I mean?
okay, all right.
For the 5 acres. And as far as Department of Conservation and Recreation there, they're not using it. And they said, if you want it, no problem with us, just fill out the paperwork for it and we'll get it to you. But it is state-owned, and I think you're gonna lose like $63,000 in taxes if we take ownership of it per year. I think that was the
That-
number.
That much?
It's that much land in there.
Yeah, but the state doesn't pay that much money. I mean,
Well, that's the figure, and Bill can check it out with Nicole, but that's the figure she gave me.
yeah, I'd like to have Bill check that out because in-kind, the state is very poor in giving money when it comes to in-kind.
Well, there's a new calculation in law out this year that upped it all. Some of the communities like Belchertown got over $1 million this year.
Okay. Because at one time it was so ridiculous, it was just, in lieu of taxes was absolutely ridiculous.
You're 100% right, but there's a new law out and a new formula on how to do it. And I know Doug Albertson, the planner up in Belchertown, they got a watershed they put in and stuff like that. They document it, and the state gave them over $1 million.
Well, this may be, again, I'm not trying to jump into another committee, but Bill, if you can help us out there, can you send that along to either myself or Jim or to both of us? So we'll have an idea of at least what the new in lieu of taxes or in lieu of taxes money is. Because that does help us in making a decision.
So do you want in lieu of taxes for one specific property or all of the properties, all of the state properties?
Just that Sandy
Plains.
Yeah, Sandy Plains there. It
Brian,
would
does
also, actually, you know what? I know Jim's gonna ask you this. It'd be nice to have the one on 202 too. Because that way we won't have to go looking for it. At least we'll have it and we'll know what she's paying for taxes.
That in lieu of taxes, where does that money come into? It obviously doesn't come into our office.
Comes in the cherry sheet, comes off the cherry sheet.
And I think
Yeah.
Nicole has access to the cherry sheet.
I will ask her.
They put that on the cherry sheet. That's where you get your money.
I
Okay.
thought we got in lieu of taxes just for state land. Do we get in lieu of taxes for something else?
No, just for state lands. You don't get it for the federal lands.
Okay.
Federal lands is nothing.
That property on 4 West State Street, That's not, they pay taxes. The current owner pays taxes on that.
That's private. That's private.
Correct.
And the other
And they
piece you're
don't-
talking,
And they
Federal.
don't pay very much. I don't remember what it was, but we've looked it up.
Yeah,
But I can find,
I think it was valued at 73,000, Bill, the 5 acres itself. Was the value, not the taxes.
the other piece, this Sandy Hill, whatever you're calling, the Green Meadow Lane, that's federal property.
No, that's state property now.
Yeah, they turned it down, Jimmy. They passed it down. It was federal.
Yeah, now it's DCR.
I'll get that and Jay, I guess I'll email that information to you.
I'd send it to the whole committee.
Okay,
Because it's land use and we're talking about it, and if we can help out the land use committee, because there's only 3 of them, and it's been on our agenda for all the time, we'll just work together as a team.
Okay.
If we can help each other, we'll help each other. If they want us,
that's fine.
they want us to stay away from it, we'll stay away from it.
I probably won't be able to get it done until next week.
Well,
Well, we're
that's
not
fine.
meeting anyway until after the first year, I'm sure, right, Jim?
I won't be doing anything with it until after, that's for
I mean,
sure.
I'm up to my neck in alligators right now, so.
Okay, on our agenda next is Cooley Park, and I think that is pretty much just sitting there like Brian said the last time. Well, if you get rid of land, you don't have it to get it back. I think those
Yep.
were Brian.
It's being used for passive recreation right now. I can hear the snowmobiles down there.
Oh, you can?
Yeah. Yeah, the
There's
snowmobiles are using it right now.
Yeah, because there's no insects out this time of the year.
No, there isn't.
Okay, we'll come on to the Route 202 upgrade. As I stated earlier, the select board has sent a letter to the politicians to have them reinstate the in-kind money. So increase our 1.2 million to 1.56. And the question is, if we're gonna have a meeting, do you think we should consider upping it up a little bit? Because we don't have, nobody's filed for Mass Works or anything on all this stuff. And in 2023, from 54 West State Street through 5 Corners, I mean, people should be working on that grant now.
Yeah.
I don't care if they're contractors or somebody in the town. Because the in-kind funds they were looking at for the 5 Corners area was $560,000. It was 360,000 for the first segment, 560,000 for the second. I guess because it's an intersection, it gets more money. I don't know. I don't know how they figure that out, what police details and all that stuff. Okay, any questions on that as far as Route 202? Like I said, we don't know what we've been told. If there's any state project currently being worked on, they're continuing working on it. If there's a state project that has not broken ground yet, it's kind of on hold. And that's where the pipeline is. It's on kind of a hold because Mass DOT hasn't broken ground on any of it yet. But if we get in there, we need to be in there fast with our money if we're going to get it done. Any other questions on that? Item 2?
No.
Hearing none, guess none. Yeah, item 3 was grants and loans. And I think we have already beat that one to death too.
Yep, I
Yeah,
agree.
we need grants and we need money. And to get the infrastructure to earn more money. And I agree with you guys. I don't care if it's town employees or they hire people outside. What I suggested at one point in time was, hey, why don't we go to a grant firm and say, okay, you can have 5% of all the money you get us as your commission. Because I know all the grants I did, we were getting 10% administrative funds. But again, one vote doesn't mean anything on a board of 3. Okay, item number 4, the transfer from the Energy Committee. As I stated, the Energy Committee is, unless the Select Board appoints new members, will not continue after 30 June at the latest. It may even end sooner than that, because if the projects we're doing now, once we finish with them, we have to ask ourselves this question on the Energy Committee. Are we gonna do all this work and apply for these grants? And if they get them, who's gonna take care of them? And if there's nobody to take care of them, why waste our time applying for them? You agree with that, Brian?
Yes, I do.
So the Energy Committee is almost done. We're doing the FY20 green community work now, and then tomorrow we got solar block, and after that, we're pretty much done. Unless we know there's somebody to turn the work over to. And I've been very vocal for the last 3+ months saying, I'm not coming back. Can you give somebody here to, get in here? And I just get smiles and no response.
Jay?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've sent this committee the information on the school committee's meeting tomorrow at 3:15. It has the meeting ID number, passcode, and the agenda. I pulled it off of Facebook.
Okay, did you get it from me? From me too? Send it to my wife's email?
Oh, no, but I will.
Okay, I'm on my wife's computer and using her email until I get mine fixed.
Thanks,
Okay.
That's
Lil.
why, that's why I don't have all that stuff. Thanks, Lil.
You're welcome.
Okay. We beat the loans to death. Didn't apply for them, EP. The economic development grant for the DLT, well, that was just done. Ken Comey is gonna update the committee, so 3D is all done. The planning board issue. Oh, the Solar Massachusetts Target Program. It's called Smart 2. As of 10 December, all of the requirements to have solar fields are now documented in the Smart 2 program regulations. And I think I sent it to all you guys, I'm not sure, because again, I've been up and down going crazy. Of all the changes they've made in Smart 2, we don't have to do one of them because they're already done. When all the solar was amended a couple years ago, they covered everything that's in there now. So there's nothing the planning board or anybody has to do. There was only that one thing we looked at, Lil, about no large scale solar in the business district?
Yes, but then you're talking about,
On the canopy solar.
right.
Because Jim, just so you know it, a canopy can hold, when you put 40,000 square feet of solar on a canopy, it's considered large scale ground mounted, believe it or not. Even though it's up in the air, it's considered ground mounted.
Okay.
That, just so you know. And that's the only thing is, you were one of the writers of that originally on the, what do you call it, green communities. Wasn't it restricted from the business district?
Yeah, it's
Or
not
you-
allowed.
You don't remember? Okay.
No,
No,
it's not
this-
allowed.
Okay, but it's allowed by right on canopies. So wherever you put a canopy, it would be allowed by right. So you'd have a conflict there between business district and a canopy if somebody put one there. Say over a parking lot. That's where only canopies only go over parking lots, whether it's a school parking lot or a Walmart parking lot or Smith and Wesson
Right.
parking lot.
Why we were allowing it, so it wouldn't take away from the business revenue.
Okay, but it's allowed by right on canopies, to let you know that. But again, a canopy only goes over a parking lot. So you wouldn't be taken away from a business. They would just be, like I say, Smith and Wesson's parking lot, UMass parking lot. That's where all those go. And, okay, I did talk about the electric department. Bill, do you want to chime in on that? Or anything? Because I know you were looking it up when we talked a
No,
little bit.
all I did was look it up and the things that I read, all I was really doing was, I'm not going to say verifying what you said because I knew what you said was right. I was just reading more about it. And you've explained it, I think, quite well, Jay.
Okay, but it's a revenue aspect for this committee can look at. But there is a clause, I want to say it's Massachusetts General Law 143, but I could be wrong. I have to look it back up. To regulate any power producing facility, wind, water, it doesn't specifically say wind, water, it just says any power producing facility. To regulate it, your department must be intact before the other one is online. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Otherwise, it would be pre-existing and then it wouldn't be covered. Okay, under new business, on the small business, Coben, grants. I did see where, what was it? 4 Granby businesses got money. But I can't tell you how much and I can't tell you what business because the state says they're the only ones that can release that information publicly. But if you take the 300 plus businesses registered in the town of Granby and only 4 of them got money, that's, to me, it's a lack of communication within our town to get this stuff out to all our residents. I mean, I don't care if you want to call it Yard Waste Day or anything you want to communicate. The town does not do a good job of getting the information out to the residents, in my opinion. Okay, with that being said, unless anybody else has anything they'd like to add, we can go for a motion to adjourn.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay,
I'll move.
okay. We have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? The
Second,
motion to adjourn was by Brian,
second by Bill.
second by Bill. Are there any discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye by name because we can't see each other.
Brian, I.
Bill, aye.
Jim's and I.
Lil's and I, but I don't, you don't really need my vote.
Well, Gary's not here. You can vote.
Remember.
Yep. And Jay's and I. So unanimously, we're adjourned. And we'll plan on meeting on our regular, what is it, the 4th Tuesday in January,
Right.
January 19th.
January 19th.
Thank you, Lil.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everybody. Have a Merry Christmas. We'll see you
Yeah, have a
next
good
year.
holiday, everybody.
Everybody,
like
Merry Christmas to all.
Yeah, and the only action items I got right now for tomorrow morning, and I don't really have them anymore because Lil sent them out to you, is about that 3:15 Zoom meeting.
Yep.
So Bill and Brian's got that, but anything that either the Land Use Committee or the Economic Development Committee wants from the Energy Committee, please ask and we'll give it to you because we want to see it best for all the residents, but we can't give it to anybody else if nobody's there to accept it. So if it makes revenue, and we're going to give it to you guys. Well, thanks again, and everybody have a nice holiday.
Yep.
Thank you. And the same
Take
to
care.
all of you. Have a good Christmas.
We'll see you.
Yep.
Bye.